Hi, I'm Jeff Ray, your host for Economic Outlook. Welcome to our program. We hope you enjoy the show. Please make plans each week to join us as we discuss the region's most important economic development initiatives with a panel of experts. Baseball season is kicked off and the South Bend Cubs are back in action. The team has big plans for this season and even bigger plans for the off-season with some major stadium improvements. We're sitting down with South Bend Cubs owner Andrew Berlin coming up on Economic Outlook. He bought the South Bend Cubs in 2011, and he's changed your experience at the ballpark and changed how we think about minor league baseball in South Bend. Each year, the team is one of the busiest attractions in the region as it attracts more than 300,000 fans. The team has big plans for the season and beyond, with a major construction project set to kick off in September. We're giving you an inside look at what lies ahead with South Bend Cubs owner Andrew Berlin. Welcome, Andrew.
Thank you.
Glad to have you back. This is one of my favorite shows every year. I'm a baseball fan, and so always enjoy talking about what's going on with South Bend Cubs. Andrew, for those who maybe haven't seen one of our previous shows, so just go back in time a little bit. You've been involved for a few years now. Give us a quick history catch-up of Andrew Berlin's involvement with the South Bend Cubs.
Well, it started in 2011. I came to visit South Bend and at that time Coveleski Stadium in a summer game. It was a Friday night with former Governor Joe Kernan. And I was looking forward to coming out to the ballpark and seeing what he had built or what was happening there. And on a Friday night, I was walking through the concourse and my shoes were sticking to the floor because they didn't wash it very often. And then when we got to our seats, there were about 200 people there on a Friday night. And it was not a pretty picture for South Bend or for, at that time, the Silverhawks. And I remember leaving and calling my wife and saying, I just don't think this is going to be for me. And Joe Kernan and I had a phone call scheduled, the next day, and he wanted to know what I was going to offer for the team. And I told Joe, I think I'm going to take a pass on it. This is too big of a lift. I'm busy with other things. And he wouldn't hang up. He kept going. And anyone who knows Governor Kernan, there's no saying no to that man. And the conversation continued. And finally, he said, name a number. And I said, well, I thought to myself, I knew this was going to happen. And I said, okay. I named a number that was, relatively lower than maybe what I would have expected. And he said, can you come up a smidge? I said, I can come up a smidge. And we made the deal right there on the phone. And I hung up the phone. And I said to my wife, I don't know what just happened, but I just bought a ballpark or not a ballpark, but a team. And then it was off to the races. We had a lot of really good ideas of what we wanted to do there, but we also knew that in order to execute those ideas, we had to have really great people with great experience, great traits, personality traits, and really great skills. And I met Joe Hart at the time, because he's still our team president today. And by the time we opened the gates for the 2012 season, a lot of changes had been made. And every single year since then, we have always improved the stadium in some big ways, some small ways. But the way we are now, we've won lots of awards for the best stadium in all of minor league baseball several times. We have won regional awards, we've won renovation awards, and it just is a real testament to the way we dream big, but we also recruit and hire and retain great talent to execute those ideas. So it's been a marvelous run, and now we're right on the cusp of the biggest renovation ever.
That's great. So one more personal question before we get to renovation. So when did this love affair with baseball start? You're a business guy, you're running a successful business, you have this interest kind of on the side, if you will, not that it's not a part-time job, I know, but no. So just give us your baseball connection.
My baseball connection, I have been in industrial manufacturing and distribution for most of my adult life. I practiced law for 2 years. That didn't last very long. I didn't really enjoy that part. But I did have a love of baseball, and for a lot of people it goes back to the childhood. Either you go to the game with the parents or you go with friends, and it's where memories are created and made, and generally good memories. In Chicago, there's no shortage of good memories, whether it be at Wrigley Field or at the old Comiskey Stadium where the White Sox played, and I went to both stadiums regularly. For me, however, it started in 2007. I was able to buy out one of the partners of the White Sox at that time, and then ended up buying up more and more partners of the White Sox and started to aggregate a pretty nice minority chunk of the team. And at that time, I started building an ambition, because I loved it so much, being a part of the organization, but as a minority partner, not as much fun. I had this ambition to buy a team, and so I met with a number of Major League Baseball owners. No teams were for sale at the time, and then I joined the Cubs in 2014. So my ownership in the White Sox went into a trust as separate and apart, and I have no longer any control over the trust as my children are part of that now. But I joined the Cubs in 2014, and I joined an organization that was very ambitious, investing a great deal in Wrigley, investing a great deal in building a team. Of course, they won the World Series 2 years later, but it was at that time I had this idea that we could replace the Diamondbacks as our major league affiliate here in South Bend, the South Bend Silverhawks, and bring it to the Cubs. And thankfully the Cubs were agreeable to that switch, and the South Bend Cubs started officially in 2015, and then we've never looked back.
Great. It's been exciting for me as a baseball fan. Back to the early days of the stadium, I've been out there just because I love the game and such. But as you mentioned, the improvements that have happened in recent years, and you're kind of this continuous improvement mindset. And so we'll talk stadium improvements first, and then we'll come back to because I don't want to dismiss this season as well too. But so you mentioned it. This is an award-winning ballpark. People have recognized it. You've made major investments. City has a lot of folks have partnerships have come together to make this happen. But you've got bigger plans a little bit. So walk into that a little bit and talk to us a little bit about what's on the horizon for Four Winds Field.
Well, it starts with the recognition that the partnership that we have with the city, the relationship that we have with the citizens of the entire region, not just South Bend, but the whole Michiana region, has been phenomenal and has been growing, almost to the point that we're selling out almost every game once we get out of the tough weather of April and a little bit of May. But when the schools are out, we're selling out almost every game. And we talk internally about, well, I wish we had more seats. I wish we had more room to bring more people in, because sellouts are fantastic, but you want to accommodate everybody who wants to come to the game. South Bend, also independent of the South Bend Cubs, South Bend as a city has been improving dramatically too. There's been a lot of new businesses that are moving into downtown South Bend. There are more hotels, more bars, and more restaurants. The population is growing, and even last year, a study was done. The South Bend Cubs return a $24 million economic impact to the city, and so that's important. It's a city-owned stadium that we rent from the city, from the citizens, but our deal with the city is that we're going to do everything we can to revitalize downtown South Bend, and I think we've been an engine of growth in that area. Having said all of that, and we feel great about that, we feel we can do even more, much more, and the state of Indiana has two wonderful aspects to it compared to almost any other state. And remember, I live in the state of Illinois, and so the state of Illinois runs at a deficit. We're always in the hole. The state always owes money. The state of Indiana runs at a surplus. The state of Indiana, this is not a shout out to any politicians, it's the truth. This state is run well. It's run like a respectable, fiscally oriented business. And as a consequence, it has the ability to fund certain activities throughout the state and spend some of that surplus on whether it be highways, schools, hospitals, renovating stadiums, what have you, which is phenomenal. Having said that, we also have legislation that has been in place, and myself, our team, you were very helpful as well. We all went down to Indianapolis to get this professional sports development area legislation passed. This PSDA, if you will, enables us to keep taxes that are already paid, income taxes or other kinds of taxes that are being paid anyway, sales taxes. Those tax dollars that are paid in the normal course of living here generally go down to the Treasury in Indianapolis and then dispersed out to the rest of the state. Through this new legislation that we have, we can now keep those taxes paid in South Bend. And those are the taxes that are helping to renovate the stadium. So the win for the citizens of this area is that taxes don't go up. They don't have to pay for the renovation. It's already going to be paid just simply by the taxes we normally pay. And that's a big win for the electorate, for the people who live here. And so the renovation we're doing is going to bring our overall attendance probably just to a smidge over 10,000. We've had games where we've hosted about 8,100 before, 8,100 people. That was on July 3rd before July 4th, of course, and those are obviously big days for games. but we can now create an experience that is extraordinary. And I'm happy to share some of those aspects, but there are a few secrets I want to hold back
right. Yeah, no
because
worries.
I want to surprise and delight the crowd next opening day next year.
Yeah, I love it. So give us a feel for time frame, because you have short windows sometimes between when baseball is not in play. Give us a feel for time frame for improvements.
Yeah, the time frame is pretty straightforward. So, opening day is April 9th next week. So I'd encourage your viewers to buy tickets, or if you're seeing this after then, please come out. Yeah. But our last game is in the first week of September, and we will have collected all the building materials, all the contracts will be signed, all the tradespeople will be ready to go right after our last game, and we break ground immediately. And the entire off season will be used. I think we could finish about 60% of the project. All the work that has to be done in the ballpark should be done by opening day, April of 2025. And then after that season, we'll have the second off season to finish up the other 40%, if you will. And so it took Wrigley 4 off seasons to do their $1 billion project, in 2014 forward. Obviously, it's a bigger stadium, but we feel very, very good about our plans to get this done with 2 off seasons, but be ready to play baseball by next spring.
I love it. Sounds good. Andrew, we're going to take a quick break. I'm with Andrew Berlin, the owner of the South Bend Cubs. We're going out to the field. George Lepiniotis, my co-host, is out at Four Winds Field. George, let me toss it to you.
Thanks, Jeff. I'm at one of my favorite places, downtown South Bend at Four Winds Field, and I am joined by President of the South Bend Cubs, Joe Hart. Joe, thanks for being with us.
My pleasure. Always a great day at the ballpark.
That's right, and you are one of our great alumni. I think we do a show with you every year, and I can't complain about the opportunity. Tell me, as we sit here on a glorious spring day, how are things going here at Four Winds Field for the South Bend Cubs?
It's amazing. Season's off to a good start. Obviously wish the guys were playing a little bit better, but anytime baseball's going on at Four Winds Field, it's just a great thing.
Hard
and
to say.
It's hard to believe. Yeah, it's hard to believe. It's been 13 years now since Andrew bought the ball club. So, obviously, I know we're going to talk about it here momentarily, but all the changes to the ballpark have been outstanding and more to come.
Substantial changes.
Yeah.
I mean, really has reignited what was already a nice community asset, but turned it into something that is really a source of pride.
Yeah.
But more importantly for our show is really an economic driver. I mean, as we look around, in years past, we've talked to you about the Berlin Flats.
Yep.
We've talked to you about the United Federal Credit Union rooftop. How are those projects going? Give us a quick update on some of the previous, state-of-the-art things that you and Mr. Berlin implemented here at the field.
Yeah, it's been great. I mean, obviously the apartments are full. Actually, this year we got some of our players living in there, so they certainly love the proximity to being here. The rooftop has been, what a great addition. It just kind of gives you that synergy to Wrigley Field. So everything we've done here, it was just really to enhance the experience of the ballpark. When Andrew bought the ball club 13 years ago, you didn't have a lot of the amenities that we have now, and for us, it's all about the experience. I tell everybody, whatever happens on the field, I don't control that. That's all handled by the Cubs with the players and the coaching staff.
Sure.
But it's everything else we can control, and we want to make sure our fans have the best time, whether we're winning or not. And that happens with good quality food, great customer service, great fireworks shows, and that's what we do.
Yeah, and you do it extremely well. And I know in years past we've talked about some of the awards and some of the accolades you've received from within baseball in general, not just minor league baseball, of really pushing the envelope and looking for state of the industry and what's out there that you can bring back home to South Bend. Well, let's talk about it then, right? I mean, there's a next step to this. You're not done. Andrew's not done. Our civic leaders are not done helping support the Cubs. What's next as we stare over at the bleachers and the stands?
Yeah, it's going to be totally different. We're going to change the landscape of Four Winds Field once again. So the second deck we're going to add starting the minute the season ends. They're going to be coming in, starting at. So the existing roof line is going to come off, and we're going to build upwards. So there'll be suites on that level. On each end of the concourse, there'll be a group space area that'll hold about 240 people on each side. We're going to relocate the fun zone from left center field over to the right field area. The fun zone, or the splash pad's going to move over here. So we got all kinds of things going on. Like our splash pad has been such a hit on those warm days in the summertime that we need more space. So it's going to be about 2.5 to 3 times larger in the new location. And again, it's just, let's changing things up, keep fans wanting to come back out, and let the kids have a good time when they're here.
Well, and 9 innings is a little bit rough on a 10-year-old. So giving them a splash pad to cool off and enjoy during the summer is a great draw. And really, a draw has not been this stadium's problem, right? I mean, the problem is really that you're beyond capacity.
Yeah, I mean, we have about 42, 43 games a year. that we sell out and just get into standing room only tickets. And, that's what we want to do. This is going to give us the opportunity to increase that capacity. But the other thing is it's going to improve the service of what we can provide to our guests. Because right now, pretty much all the amenities are in the concourse. We're trying to add some things like that, spread it out, because right now, restrooms, the only place to go under the concourse. This stadium really wasn't built to hold the capacity that we're getting on some of these Friday and Saturday nights. So the more activity we can create around the entire ballpark just makes it a little bit easier on the concourse from a food and beverage standpoint, restroom standpoint. On a Friday night, you're cutting through there. There's really not a whole lot of space to navigate through there. So, our biggest thing is just overall enhancing the experience for the fans.
And while we give a lot of credit to you and Andrew Berlin, the owner, for having the vision and really putting your own efforts and resources into the project, community leaders have been supportive.
Oh, outstanding. I've been doing this 30 years, and I say it all the time. This is the best partnership I've ever had with a city entity anywhere I've been. Mayor Mueller and his team, absolutely phenomenal. I mean, this doesn't happen without their support. And, obviously it's been great. We've had a lot of help down south in Indianapolis with some of the legislators down there to make this happen, because with all these improvements, it's tied to this professional sports development fund. So there are no increased taxes for anybody in the area to do all this work. And again, it doesn't happen without Andrew. It doesn't happen without the mayor and the city council. So, on behalf of myself and our organization, I want to thank them, because it's been the true definition of private-public partnership.
Yeah, that's awesome. Before I let you go, there's some improvements that are going to happen to the actual playing field as well. That's kind of interesting. You're ripping out the field.
Yeah, at the end of the season, we'll remove the field. A typical natural grass playing surface is good for about 7 to 8 years. We actually got 10 out of it. But the interesting thing is our plan is to have Roger Bossard, the head groundskeeper of the Chicago White Sox, is going to be the one that comes in and does it. He's done over half the Major League stadiums, so he actually put it in 2015, so we know Roger well. But his nickname in the industry is the Sod Father, so go to the best, right?
Well, we're going to leave this episode on the Sod Father. It doesn't get any better than that. Jeff, back to you, where I don't know if you have the Sod Father in the studio, but out here at the ballpark, a great field, a great fan experience is what it's all about. And the South Bend Cubs have hit a home run and continue to swing hard.
George, thank you. Always glad to get you out to the stadium. Thanks for being a great host over there. So, Andrew, let's continue our discussion. We talked briefly about just the economic impact you have on the community. One of the things in my head I think about in the 1980s when this was proposed, the thought was the ballpark was going to be this key catalyst to development that happened in around it. It's taken a little bit longer than expected, but your own investment in the outfield there, now some other investments. Talk a little bit about just the catalytic impact a ballpark has on the development around it in downtown.
Yeah, it's not a slam dunk when you build a ballpark is going to have the economic development. And in this case, I've had a lot of experience building businesses. And in building the profitability of any business, you have to increase the revenues, you have to control your expenses and improve productivity in everything you do. And you have to be able to quantify each one of those 3 legs of the stool. But you can't do it with just 2 legs. You can't do it with one without the other. When I came to town, South Bend was very kind to me. We signed a 20-year lease, so I was in for a long time. We just re-upped that lease for an additional 20 years, so we're going to be around for a long time. But I took my job seriously. South Bend made some concessions to have me, come here, build the team, and they've been partners ever since. Whether it was Mayor Lickey, Mayor Buttigieg, and now our current mayor, James Mueller, and so everyone has been terrific. But I don't think they would be that way if they didn't feel that there was a balance in the relationship, that everyone is doing what they're supposed to do. And I took our job as custodians of the city's ballpark. I took it very seriously, becoming a custodian of the Cubs brand, and to make sure that everybody got a great return on investment doing business with us, with me, the city of South Bend. And so we take it very seriously, and it's a great deal of pride that South Bend has changed so dramatically, certainly since 2012, our first season, to the present. Now I know the University of Notre Dame is about to, on the cusp of making great investments in downtown South Bend, which I think is fabulous. They have the experience, they have the funds, they have just the expertise to do a great job. We're partners with them, and however they want to use us and use any assistance we can offer them. But everyone here, and I have to say this, it's almost a really great template that is so different than the way politics play out nationally. You know, we're not Republicans here, we're not Democrats, we're not independents. There is no one race or one religion or one background that is being taken care of more than the other. We're all in this together. And so those party lines that exist elsewhere that we read about in the newspaper, we see it on TV, we see it in social media, that's not the case here. At least I haven't experienced that. And I think it's because everyone understands that everyone's working really, really hard for the same thing, and that is for South Bend to become a powerful engine of growth that can afford better schools, better roads, better education for people who want it and need it, you know, better hospitals, a better quality of life for everybody that's here. I'm not running for political office.
Right.
I'm not a politician.
That's right.
But there is a social contract. Yeah. When you have an asset like a ball club in a downtown of a city, you have a responsibility to be a good citizen, a good corporate citizen, but not just in speech, but in action. And we take that very, very seriously.
Yeah. So I mentioned earlier, so you probably the largest single attraction in terms of bringing the number of people that you bring through the turnstile.
Other than Notre Dame.
Other than Notre Dame, right? Yeah, yes, right. Exactly.
You have to give credit where credit's due.
That's true. Yes, I didn't mean to slight them. Exactly.
No, that's all right.
But so the season,
we aspire.
Yes,
we
exactly.
Aspire, yeah.
So the season has kicked off. So talk to us a little bit about the 24 season and what people can expect when they come out to Fort Wayne Field.
Well, you're going to get great baseball, just to start with. I mean, for the true baseball fans, it's going to be phenomenal. The Cubs farm system, there are 30 major league teams with 30 farm systems, and they're ranked every year by various experts and by Major League Baseball. In 2020, the Cubs farm system was ranked 24th out of 30. Not a good ranking. In similar territory, you know, the White Sox are not ranked very high this year, but the Cubs are ranked at number 2.
Great.
Yeah, so there's amazing talent, obviously, as we all know, in Baltimore, who's really making a big comeback. You know, the big, heavy paid, you know, players are in Los Angeles and the Dodgers, but not in the farm system. Right. Our farm system of the Cubs is number 2 out of 30, and there's some great talent in South Bend as the other levels. We've won championships with other players that have since moved on to AA and AAA. We expect to be championship ready with this team, you know, for this season. So there's going to be a great baseball. Aside from that, the stadium experience is going to be fantastic, and we have wonderful legacy of people that have started with us when we became the South Bend Cubs still work for us. So they have the legacy of wisdom and experience and how to treat fans wonderfully and thoughtfully and lovingly, if you will, and they're just getting better and better at what they do. So whatever ideas I may have for what the experience ought to be, the customer experience ought to be, we have people that execute those ideas. And so there are going to be a few surprises again. It's still going to be a very, very clean stadium. We have really lovely people there that are going to treat people with great respect and friendship when they come to the ballpark. You will feel welcome, you'll feel safe, you'll feel taken care of. And that's something we really, really pride ourselves on. And we're just getting better and better at that. And of course, a new, larger stadium will enable us to do even more. Yeah. But this season should be awesome.
Yeah, it's exciting. You know, I know in the last few years with All-Star Game or championships, like I say, you know, all kinds of different things, both on the baseball side, but also on the fan experience side. And I think maybe that's one of the key pieces here, where you don't have to be a baseball fan to come, right? In fact, a lot of people, you know, are they're not watching baseball, right? They're enjoying the great food you have, or the other facilities that are there.
There are some directional statistics on just the point you're making, that in minor league baseball, 85% of the fans after they leave the game can't even remember the score. So they are there for the experience. But you know, if you look out over the crowd, a lot of the crowd is walking around the concourse. They're walking in out of the team store, which is one of the most beautiful team stores because it's in a former synagogue over 100 years old. It still has the stained glass and the chandeliers in it, so it's beautiful there. You got the tiki hut in the outfield. You've got the performance center where kids are taking swings in the batting cages, the same cages that the Cubs work out in. And you have, you know, friends, family, you know, kids coming together, just sitting in the stands having a great time. So it is a very lovely, lovely place to watch a game on a summer night with the moon and the stars above you with no time clock, and it is it's just a great place to be for say 3-4 hours if you want, or a couple hours if you wish.
Right. So we're down to about last minute and a half
Yeah,
or
sure.
whatever. So again, maybe a hopeful reminder about what's ahead. Give them the last plug on being encouraged about the construction that's going to happen out there.
Well, what's ahead is that in terms of this season, or just
After. So yeah.
after the season, well, we're going to have a stadium that's it's going to be beautiful. It'll have more amenities, more bathrooms, more kitchens. Believe it or not, we serve 8,000 people from one kitchen. After the renovation, we'll have 3 kitchens. That enables us to expand the menus as well. We'll have a beautiful entertainment and event building that'll be built in left field corner, and that'll be 4 stories tall there. That's going to offer lots of spaces for people to use. I could go on and on.
No, I think that's great. I think that we whet people's appetite, right? Leave them wanting
We
more.
will have fountains, rivers, splash pads, and waterfalls.
I love it.
In the ballpark.
He's Andrew Berlin. He's the owner of South Bend Cubs. You're generous with your time. Thank you for the investment that you continue to make in our community. We're really excited about the
My
improvements. that are
pleasure,
happening
Jeff.
there.
Thank you.
That's it for our show today. On behalf of the entire team here at PBS Michiana WNIT, thank you for watching or listening to our podcast. To watch this episode again or any of our past episodes, you can find Economic Outlook at WNIT.org or find our podcast on most major podcast platforms. We also encourage you to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. I'm Jeff Ray. I'll see you next time.
This WNIT local production has been made possible in part by viewers like you. Thank you.